Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Just recently, President Trump posted something that actually perfectly captures the tension inside the Western alliance. He said, without the USA, NATO is a paper tiger. And also, he said that they didn't want to join the fight to stop a nuclear powered Iran. Now, he accused the European allies of refusing to help secure the Strait of Hormuz during the Iran crisis while still complaining about high oil prices. I mean, he's making statements like nuclear powered Iran. Iran doesn't even have nuclear weapons. And in this whole thing, his message was pretty blunt that he said that without the United States, NATO is weak. But that statement actually raises much deeper question. That if Trump means it, and he might, then why hasn't he left? He had 4 years in the first term. He has another term now. He controls the executive branch of the most powerful military in the human history. So, what's stopping him? See, the answer is that the truth is bigger than any one president. That United States cannot simply walk away from NATO, even if a president wants to. And the reason has nothing to do with the campaign speeches or political rhetoric or whatever they say, right? It has to do with how American power is actually structured. Now, before we begin, if you follow the channel for deep analysis on power, trade, war, sovereignty, systems shaping the new world order, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And let's get into it.
Stack together, because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu.
Somewhere Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems.
चुन चुन करके हिसाब लेना ये मेरी फितरत है.
Why should it be a problem if I'm smart enough to have multiple options? You should be admiring me.
भारत झुकने वाला भी नहीं.
The rise of India will be determined by India. It will be determined by our strength, not by the mistakes of others.
The old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy.
Hey guys, welcome back. Now the question is that why this really matters, that if US is going to leave NATO or not. It matters because this question actually goes far beyond NATO. If you understand why US cannot leave NATO, then you will understand why US has been in the NATO all along and why NATO has survived the test of time. Because there is a lot more going on than just, some president coming and saying that, hey, let's leave. It reveals something deeper about how global power actually works. Presidents come and go, administrations change. But the systems that sustain global power, like alliances, institutions, military structures, they often survive for decades. It's not something you just do it overnight and yeah, let's get out. And NATO is one of the clearest examples of that. So this is not just a story about Trump. This video is not about President Trump or anybody else, actually. It's about the whole structure, that how the American system actually sustains its global power architecture. And why some alliances become, I would say, so deeply embedded that even presidents cannot easily dismantle them. Because President Trump has been wanting to dismantle this whole entire architecture from the get-go, from the day one, even from the campaign times too. But there are certain things that are around him that he's surrounded by that just does not allow him, or basically I would say they hinder him from making those changes. So please do like and subscribe. Let's get going. Let's get started. All right. So reason number one in this video, or we are going to talk about the reasons. I'm going to tell you three main reasons why United States just cannot leave NATO. Doesn't matter who that is, doesn't matter who the president is, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They just cannot. Okay. Unless European Union says that, yeah, let's leave or get out, whatever, right? So let me start sharing my slide. Please do like and subscribe because it's not gonna be a very long video. Okay, so please do stay with me till the end. All right, so let's go. So number one reason is NATO anchors US power in Europe. If you look into it, you find that 31 plus NATO member states are there with $43 trillion of combined GDP, which is larger than any rival bloc. 65,000 US troops are based in Europe right now. Then 1 trillion plus annual allied defense spending. And much of it on US hardware and interoperable systems. When you establish a military alliance like that, you have to be interoperable. You have to understand this. Meaning that whatever is being operated in Europe is being operated in US, meaning that US can operate the European hardware, and those hardware, not European hardware, but the hardware that is being used by NATO. Okay, so they can interchange it and they can operate it. Okay, and it's the compatibility also. All right, what does that tell you? It tells you that $1 trillion of annual allied defense budget, meaning that there's lots of money involved. The military industrial complex, the American military industrial complex, makes lots and lots of money through this. Okay. Now, in 1949, since 1949, actually, NATO was given United States, NATO has basically given the United States something that is no outside power has even had before. And that thing is it's not just about the alliances or anchors or something. Okay, the permanent strategic position inside Europe. And with that being said, this actually what it does, it helps United States and Europe to position themselves in a way so that there is no World War III. World War I started in Europe, World War II started in Europe. So US just doesn't want World War III to start in Europe because that will be a total disaster. Through NATO, Washington maintains military bases, command structure, intelligence sharing networks, and deep influence over European defense policy. So that's how they avoid these type of things. And not to mention, this is something not often said, but behind the scenes, US also controls the European political policies as well. So, having said that, when they control the political and defense policies, then America's primary goal is to make sure that World War III does not start in Europe. That means NATO is not just a shield protecting Europe. It also is the mechanism through which United States basically stays embedded in the European balance of power. So leaving NATO would mean what? Leaving NATO simply would mean the surrendering a central position inside one of the richest and most strategically important regions on Earth. An American system is simply not designed to do that. There are too many moving parts here, all right? That's why. That's reason number one. Now let's get into the reason number two. Reason number two is that NATO is a pillar of the American global system. After World War II, if you look at, then United States built a global system supported by several pillars. The dollar system, global maritime security, international trade institutions, and NATO as the military alliance tying Europe to American power. NATO prevented Europe from becoming independent military bloc. And if Europe would have become an independent military bloc, chances are that there will be something major going on. Okay, there will be, then dollar will have to compete with the European Union, that their currency euro, because European Union's combined economy is almost $18 trillion, 18 to 20 trillion dollars. That is right there, right on that edge, or I would say right next to the US and Chinese economy when they decide to compete together. And quite frankly, European Union doesn't even need US dollar to run its economy. That's how powerful euro is. So that's another reason that US has to be part of that NATO, even if they wanted to, because if they decide to leave, then what's going to happen is that it will end the second pillar. Second pillar is the dollar system. The dollar system that US had created, the petrodollar system, the whole entire petrodollar system will collapse. Not to mention, US will probably lose its edge in the Mediterranean. Right now, where the whole entire mess is going on, Strait of Hormuz, then Suez Canal is there, the Middle East is there, right? And once you lose the edge on the Mediterranean, then that will lead to bigger problems. All right, so that's why US just simply cannot go and leave NATO, even if they wanted to. I'm just giving you the very high level overview of this whole thing. I mean, if I start to get down to it, I mean, I can talk about at least 10 reasons why US cannot leave NATO. But just for the sake of the video, I'm just going with 3 important ones. Okay, so, and then if you look into the economy of it, like I said in the last slide, right, the $300 billion US arms export to NATO allies, 2017 to 2024, NATO actually runs the whole entire, how do I say it? US military industrial complex runs the NATO, I would say. That's how US military industrial complex is funded. Now, if let's say European Union decides to become self-reliant and totally independent as far as defense is concerned, then they will probably build their own military industrial complex, and then that military industrial complex will not only compete with the US military industrial complex, it will also compete with the world military industrial complex. And guess what? It will impact the European Union's economy too. And it will definitely, it will pretty much kill the US military industrial complex. Why? Because US military industrial complex has a major delivery problem. They are in backlog. So it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if you order them from what you call it, a US military industrial complex, you're not going to get anything on time. So when they cannot deliver and all that, and if they leave NATO, then guess what? They're going to be outcompeted by pretty much any other rival military industrial complex that's out there. And eventually, that's going to impact what? That's going to impact the American military. Without NATO, they will have to probably shrink the defense budget. Lots of defense budget actually comes from the US military industrial complex. The US defense hardware export is actually the largest export in America. America's most export comes from the defense export. And NATO is a major chunk of it. That is $300 billion plus. Now, if they leave NATO, then definitely I'm not saying that they're going to just cut back right away. But eventually, they would definitely decide to shrink it. They're not going to rely on $100 billion. They will probably, that $300 billion, that will probably shrink from 300 probably $200 billion. That's about it. Or maybe 70, $80 billion. That in itself is a what? Major cut for the US military industrial complex. So the industrial complex, they just simply cannot afford the withdrawal. So what does that tell you? That this should tell you that American military industrial complex is deeply embedded into NATO's architecture, NATO's the political side of it, the policy making and all that as well. Now, here is the interesting part. Interesting part is this, that I told you about these are the economics and then a little bit of power structure and all that. But the question really is the why if a president wants to leave, why they cannot leave? Especially President Trump. And that reason actually takes us to that question. Takes us to what? The third slide. That is reason number 3 and the most important reason. Okay. So stay with me. The reason number 3 is that Congress and the system have made leaving impossible. The verdict is that no US president has unilateral legal authority to withdraw from NATO. Full stop. That's it. So, what exactly happened here? Okay, what exactly happened here? In 2023, US Congress passed a legislation that prevents a president from unilaterally withdrawing from NATO. Under this rule, leaving NATO now requires a two-thirds votes in the Senate or an act of Congress. This means no president, not Trump, not Biden, not anyone in the future can simply pull the United States out of NATO on their own. The broader political system has effectively placed institutional protection around the alliance, which tells us something even more important. NATO is no longer treated like a temporary foreign policy arrangement. It is treated like strategic infrastructure inside the American power system. Do you know? Let me tell you even more interesting thing about this whole thing. That who actually introduced this bill in 2023? Do you guys know this? This bill was actually introduced by Marco Rubio. He I would say he framed this bill, he introduced it into the Congress, and he made sure that this bill gets passed. What does that tell you? That tells you that Marco Rubio knew something. Marco Rubio knew something about the American system. He knows something about the future president. And he also knows something what president will do. He introduced this bill in 2023. It got passed 2024, everything good and gravy. And today he is Secretary of State. He is Secretary of State, and now US is in war with Iran. Do you guys know that 2016 Marco Rubio was running for the office, the president's office, as a rival to President Trump? Do you guys know that? Probably you don't know. And then, I mean, you can go fact check me too. Okay, now I'm going to tell you something even more interesting. That he was funded by Larry Ellison in 2016 for Marco Rubio's campaign. It's the same Larry Ellison who bought a major stake in TikTok. And Larry Ellison is very pro-Jewish, or however you want to play, Jewish, Zionist, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, but that's what happened. And then that's the lobby that put Margot Rubio into the office of Secretary of State. Now, at this point, I think you guys know why US just simply cannot pull out of NATO. President Trump can whine about it, he can complain about it, he can say all that, but he just cannot get out of NATO. And as far as Iran war is concerned, unless President Trump decides that, yeah, let's go, forget about our image and this and that, we are done, we are getting out, I can assure you that this war, if President Trump goes with boots on the ground, okay, if President Trump decides to go put the boots on the ground, I can tell you this, that this war is going to survive, or this war is going to last longer. It will go way longer than this year. Russians are waiting over there for President Trump to make this mistake. And what's going to happen? Russians and Chinese both will start to support Iran militarily, not just with logistics. They are going to start providing things that will make US getting out of Strait of Hormuz impossible. And this is going to drag on, at least for the end of this year. And then what's going to happen? That will clearly have a severe impact on what? It will have a severe impact on American election system. That is midterms. And if this drags on till the end of the year, then President Trump will guaranteed lose the midterm. Now it depends on what he loses. If he loses the House, then his authority will be completely disabled. Then there are things he won't be able to do, and chances are that then Congress may pass a bill or something to pull out of Strait of Hormuz or of this whole Iran war altogether. And if he loses both House and the Senate, then consequences of those things will be much worse. He may get impeached. So there is that, guys. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in another video. Take care.